Welcome to Wildly Wealthy Life, the show that's all about exploring the different paths to a life of freedom and fulfillment and how that ripples through your personal life, family life, and to the community. Join husband and wife power couple Lee and Kat Hughes as they share people's stories from different backgrounds and lifestyles about what it means to live a life well lived. Tune in and take that first step to becoming the best version of yourself, personally and professionally, here on Wildly Wealthy Life.
So I had to get creative, and here's where the creative aspect came in. I had to really look at my gifts and talents. I now call them diamonds, and I'm the diamond person. That's my metaphor of how I teach. And I had to look at these diamonds that I was carrying around that I thought looked like rock, but I reframed them and I said, okay, how can I take this gift that I have to the market in order to earn extra income to pay down this debt even faster than I could if I was just looking at my salary alone? And that was the impetus of the whole creative part, because a lot of people think creativity is only artistry and not creativity is like a problem-solving mechanism that you can bring in income.
All right, and welcome again to another episode of Wildly Wealthy Life. My name is Lee Hughes. For those who are new to the channel, welcome. We appreciate you taking this chance to jump in on with us. And to my right is my beautiful and amazing, wonderful co-host and wife, as a bonus, Kat. Kat, who in the world do we have on today?
Today we have Genein Letford. Genein is an award-winning speaker. She's a best-selling author. She's been featured on TEDx. She's a corporate trainer on creative thinking and intercultural creativity. She's also got her own podcast called Create and Grow Rich Podcast. She's the creator of the Debt to Destiny Financial Freedom course. And the best thing that I love about Genein is she is our dear friend. And there's so much more that we could say about her, but I think it will take up a lot of time.
Amazing mom, amazing
there's
friend,
just so many things. So we're really excited to have her on because not only is she a friend, but she's a really, really awesome powerhouse woman who's got a lot of wisdom to share today. So Genein, how are you doing today?
I am on cloud 9, 10, 11, and 12. So awesome to be on your podcast. The amazing work you guys are doing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Genein, for being here. Genein, can you give us like a little bit of like an overview of just your background? I mean, we introduced you a little bit, but like, what's your overview of your background from where kind of like you came from to where you are now with this whole journey of creativity?
Sure. Well, I'm an educator by trade. You know, like a lot of us, I followed the rules, went to high school, graduated, stayed out of trouble, and I ended up going to college as well, followed the rules, graduated. And around 30 years old, I remember I was sitting with a credit card bill and a $60,000 student loan bill. And I was just crying my eyes out, just deep in debt, $100,000 worth of debt. And I didn't know how I got there. I was like, wait, I did everything I was supposed to do. What happened? Why are we still struggling? What went wrong? What wrong turn did I make? And that was the turning point to where you see me today. My husband and I, we found a Dave Ramsey book randomly in our library that my aunt gave me like months before. I read that book from cover to cover within a day. And I remember sitting there saying, why am I a 30-year-old woman with a college degree, supposedly educated, and I don't have this basic financial information? You need about a sixth grade education to really run through most of it. And that was the impetus of the journey. We just started reading everything we could. We went to a class, a financial peace class, and I started talking with my friends. And I remember you guys were one of the first ones that I contacted, like, do you know about this stuff? Like it was a hidden, like secret society of financial education, right? And I just started teaching because that is my gift. That's my thread. Whatever I learn, whatever wisdom that I have, I just want to make sure I'm a vessel. And I just started teaching and learning. And there's a video on YouTube. If you just type in my name and it said debt free, you'll see us paying our last student loan debt.
Oh, I will check that out.
And yeah, you actually see us pressing the button, and then it says, "Are you sure you want to make this payment?" And I'm like, yes. And that was another turning point because I knew that my journey wasn't just for me. So that's where the book came in, From Debt to Destiny. But during that, I realized I'm an educator. I'm on a paid grade scale. So if you're familiar with how educators are paid, it's from how much education you have and how long you've been working. There's no bonuses. It's not corporate America. There's no sales and commissions. So your income is basically more or less set. So I had to get creative. And here's where the creative aspect came in. I had to really look at my gifts and talents. I now call them diamonds. And I'm the diamond person. That's my metaphor of how I teach. And I had to look at these diamonds that I was carrying around that I thought looked like rocks. I thought they're just rocks, like, oh, I love to take a few photos here and there. Oh, I love to do this and that. But I reframed them and I said, okay, how can I take this gift that I have to the market in order to earn extra income to pay down this debt even faster than I could if I was just looking at my salary alone. And that was the impetus of the whole creative part, because a lot of people think creativity is only artistry and not creativity is like a problem-solving mechanism that you can bring in income. So now I left the classroom in June of 2019, taking this creative intercultural message out to the world of saying, we are carrying around these diamonds, we are creative, and we have to be aware of our cultures, not just ethnic cultures, but just our different demographics and how we communicate and connect with people and how we share our creativity and create together. And that's the message that I have.
Yeah. I love when you talked about how you followed all the rules. What went wrong, right? I think that's huge for our listeners to kind of really tap into, to understand that sometimes when we follow it's not about like, okay, follow the rules or not follow the rules. It's just the fact that like a lot of us have not been educated in things about finances, right? We just have not. So like all we know traditionally is go to school, get a good grade, behave, and get all these awards and all these things, but it doesn't always amount to having a financially free life. And I love that you all of a sudden, you woke up to that and you realized, wait, what went wrong? And instead of, what I love is like, instead of kind of like blaming like what could have happened or whatever, you just dug into it and you just kind of like had this whole self-revelation and just like, again, a revelation of how, oh, wait, we could do this. We could take charge and we could actually turn, the boat around, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I love the psychology. I've had the pleasure of being able to like be in a financial class with Genein. And I love how you really set up examples to kind of get people thinking outside of the box, not thinking of their own needs, but really like looking at like, do you need to get your nails did or, hair done and all that kind of stuff. And taking apart someone else's budget is so much easier. But when you put it on yourself, it's like, oh, but I do. It's me though. It's not that other, and you really break down a lot of those like constructs that we have in our head of like what, we need versus what we want. I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about like before, like growing up, with your family, what were some of the examples of money that you had and what were some of the mental shifts that you had to change, in that moment where you're crying on the floor with the credit card bills and your education bills?
Sure. I'm so glad you brought up the word psychology. My degree and my background is actually in psychology, and it's really getting people aware of how much the psychological part is a piece of your life, your success. This is your engine, the steering wheel per se. And so in my book, I talk about your blueprints, your money blueprints. We don't really think about it because it's just in the background, but your subconscious is recording everything that is going on. So if you see your parents arguing about money, your subconscious is taking that in. And so money is now attached to arguing or to strife or conflict. If you see money being used as a way of buying love or as a way of, after something bad happens and then gifts are purchased, that is being recorded. If you see money not being spoken about at all, that's being recorded. Or if you see money being spoken about at the dinner table, things are out in the open, transparency is there, saving is taught, that delayed gratification is taught, that's being recorded as well. So I had to look, my mother did a great job of showing us how to pay bills, but You can't give someone something you don't have.
Yeah.
So she didn't have the investment education. She didn't have some of the other types. She just knew how to make money through a traditional job and how to pay bills, which a lot of us, may have seen more or less. So the shift happened, number one, of understanding the power of the idea. Everything around us started as a spiritual idea of, an invisible idea in someone's mind. The computer that we're on, the books that we have, the clock on the wall, that started as a concept. So understanding that people will pay me money for my concepts if I know how to present it, that was huge. And also understanding the entrepreneurial mindset. When people think of entrepreneurs, they think of, you need to leave everything and start from scratch and, and have that rough lifestyle and, but I tell people, even if you have a typical job, you can still have an entrepreneurial mindset. And that is the mindset of how do I create something from nothing? How do I communicate that? And how do I, like Lee said, look at the needs of my surroundings and be a problem solver? My definition of creativity is the process of problem finding and problem solving. And I think the problem finding is key there, is because that takes your observational skills to the next level. You have to be aware of what's going on around you. You have to engage with the mundane in a different way. And you have to be sensitive to patterns and see things that other people are missing. So if you're good at problem finding and good at problem solving with relevance, value, and novelty, so that to me is what it means to be creative. Artistry is important. And I believe the arts can help you increase your creative thinking skills in non-arts areas. And I'm a huge advocate. You guys know about kids and adults having a good, solid arts background and training, but we have to kind of take the word creative back from the artist and kind of share it with everyone. Everyone is a creative. There's no such thing as a creative department. The accounting department is a creative department.
Yes.
The marketing department, the sales department, they're all creative departments. And you all have creative leaders. And going into 2021, we have to redefine that word and share it with us all.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there, Genein. I think one of the things that really stuck out to me is just the creativity description, right? Your definition of creativity. It's really, you're right. Like, it's about problem finding, because if you don't know how to find problems, how are you going to solve it in the first place, right? If you're not aware of these, like, you're saying, like, you have to engage with the mundane things in a different way. I think that's really, really beautiful. I love when you also said that you had, gotten out of your classroom like June of 2019. And it's so funny that you did that a year before this whole pandemic broke out, right? It's almost like you were prepped for it. It's like, yay, you got out right before, I know, right? It's all God, totally all God. But it's just amazing that, and I believe that even if you didn't get out, before the pandemic happened, you probably would have been able to shift easily as well, just because I know you, I know how creative you are. And again, the creativity word, you're right, it does not pertain to just artists, right? And even when I talk about music, I talk about musicality does not pertain to people who play instruments. Musicality to me is innate. It's in us. It's in the way we walk. It's in the way we talk. When we brush our teeth, there's musicality when we brush our teeth. Like everything we do has rhythm. And so if we can just recognize that, we can actually embody that. We can actually live it out even more, because it's the matter of like recognizing that. And that's what it is with creativity too. It's recognizing and believing that we are creative. If you're not an actor, if you're not a painter, if you're not a dancer, you're still creative. So thank you for just, really sharing that message and being very passionate about the message, because I think that a lot of people really need to hear that.
And one thing before you jump in, I want to just remind people that they are actors, they are painters, because I get to watch my 2-year-old son. And because my husband and I have a home of when we hear music, we move, that's his norm. Like, we were at the mall, he heard music and he was like, he didn't care who was watching. He just started moving, because that is our foundational start. We all come here as painters, as actors, as singers, right?
Yeah.
And we get educated out of it. So it's really
out of it.
back to that core.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to say that the problem finding is such a sometimes a tough thing, because like normally we wait, and then when a problem hits us in the face, that's when we go and try to solve it, So it's not really problem finding. It's like getting smacked with problems, as opposed to like seeing, like looking forward and really knowing like, okay, this is what I want to do. These are some of the things that may come up. How do I like already like prep myself and get my situation ready to tackle those challenges in that? For you, what are some of the like daily routines that help you kind of prepare yourself to either look for different problems and find those solutions, or just, prepare for the day?
Sure. Well, in my corporate trainings, I really make sure, once again, people understand the psychological component to this aspect. Just like with your financial and your wealthy wildlife mentality, your creativity has its own mentality too. And as I mentioned before, we do sadly, and I'm a huge, proponent for education and looking at the definition of that word, right? But structured systems of education or testing can really remove people from their innate creative thinking abilities that we were automatically born with. So how do we put them back, basically? And so my routines that I do basically helps put them back. Number one, and you can actually, look at, I have all this on my personal website, my business website at Cafe Strategies, but I call them the 16 diamond tools of creative thinking. The first one is always your mindset. So I wake up and I say, I'm creative. Or how am I going to create today? What am I going to create today? My 2-year-old son one day looked at me, he like straight, he was like, what are you producing? So I was like, excuse me? Like, where did you get that? Of course, they're recording everything they hear. So he may have heard me say it. He may have heard Daniel Tiger say it. I don't know. But he called me out. He's like, what are you producing today? Like, hello. And so I have to ask myself that question. Another thing that you pointed out is the critical redevelopment of our observational skills. I just did a keynote talk with Woodbury University, and I talked about that actually with the Epic Impact Society, and like, what does it mean to be a keen observer? And so this pandemic has really opened my eyes to that term. I live on a hill in, an area of condos a little bit north of Los Angeles, and I've been here for 10 years. The pandemic hit, and when you have a pandemic with a 2-year-old and you're stuck in your home, I have seen plants and flowers I have never seen before in my decade of living as a resident. And it's because, number one, he has keen observational skills. So when we go on a walk, Shane and I just walk. He looks at every single thing, every single statue. And so I'm like, I feel like I'm in a new home because I'm experiencing it in a new, nuanced way, because this 2-year-old is forcing me to engage as he engages with high observational skills. And so, we walk out, I do listening training for my ears. I just close my eyes, listen to airplanes and birds and try to mimic the bird sounds. It's just 2 minutes a day can really increase your observation skills, which isn't just seeing, it's all of your senses acting. And that's another reason why I really advocate artistic training, because it automatically pushes your observational skills to the next level, because you have to be aware of where your body is. If you're painting, when's the last time you painted a flower? Lee knows this as I think you both are painters, right? You have to be aware of the minute, smallest details. And if you're a good painter, if you really strengthen that, you'll be aware of the minute details in the boardroom. It's the same skill.
Wow, that's awesome. Amazing. I love that, Genein. I love Sean. That is just the cutest thing. Like, what are you producing today? I just love that. So talking about your son, right? And just your background from like how you grew up. I love, when you said that, your mom was a great mom. She taught you how to, make money and also pay the bills, right? But as far as investing, none of that was taught to you, because you're right. You can't give something you don't have. So you can't teach something when you don't actually know it, right? And so for you being a mom right now of an almost 3-year-old, right? He's still young, but as you said, psychologically, a lot of things are already being recorded at this age, right? What are the things that you're doing to already impart that wisdom on how to handle finances?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm calling it, right? All of this is going to be written in a book. I even have Sean writing his own book. I'm calling it teaching to the test. In education, we say, that teacher's teaching to the test, meaning you know what's going to be on the test. You kind of want to prime your kids. Like there's a lot of subtracting across zeros. So I really want to make sure my kids know subtracting across zeros, right? It's kind of teaching to the test. But I am teaching to the test with my son, meaning when he's 25, 35, 45, he will have the test that a lot of people had this year, where your one source of income has been taken away without any warning, and you have to think creatively about how to bring in funds. That's a test.
Right.
Or the test of being, laid off, the test of being downsized, the test of losing an income due to a passing or whatever. Life has tests for you. And you had the test of having cats, randomly. randomly, blocking your view of life. There are tests that we have to be prepared for. Of course, you can't be 100% prepared for them, but we can increase our preparation percentage. And so with Sean, I'm basically teaching to the test creatively and financially, and of course, morally, spiritually as well. But with the area of finances, the first thing right now, psychologically speaking, your training starts from 0 to 5. Once children understand that things have worth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once children understand that I have a job to do, so he has his own. He says the word. My responsibility is to put his diaper in the trash.
Yeah.
Responsibilities of cleaning up. And then, once he understands that he has responsibilities just because he's a part of the family, and you need to pull your own weight. You don't just get to eat for free. That's the thing. And then the next thing is, okay, here are some extra things that you can do for some extra, 10 cents or whatever. And then he can collect his, whatever, 10 cents or $1, and then trade it for something that he wants. And of course, there's that little, you start small, because everything you and I do on a big scale, buying homes, investing, you can teach it on a small scale at 10 cents. We're operating with thousands and thousands of dollars. The same concept can be learned with a dime. And so, if you're making $1, 10 cents goes to our church or to charity, because we help people who need help. 10 cents goes into saving for long term. And then I do the 70 percentage. So 10 cents to charity, 10 cents to long-term savings, and 10 cents to short-term savings. So, or to business, or starting your own business or whatever. And then try to live off of 70 cents. You can buy something or whatever, and then the thing is for parents to understand is this is our job, is to slowly transfer responsibility. So when they hit 17, 18, 19 years old, most of, they should be at 90% of taking care of their own bills, buying their own clothes, budgeting for their own clothes, washing their own dishes. They should know how to cook, how to wash clothes. I counsel folks who they're grown kids, like they're still doing all of those things for them.
Yeah.
And sadly, like you're crippling them, because if they're 18 and not washing their own clothes, so what is this checklist? So to me, it's a checklist of what skills, because they're in the end, they're just skills, right? Mm-hmm. What skills should he have by the time he exits the home? And what can I be working on now as a basic thing so he can be prepared by his teenhood?
Yeah, I like that, because I'm thinking of like my nieces and nephews right now, and just different things. You guys get shout outs on our podcast. Whoop, whoop. But just different skill sets that they have, because two things are going to happen when they leave the house. They're going to do it themselves, or they're going to pay somebody else to do it. Mm-hmm. So, they either have to make more income to make up that difference, or
and know how to budget.
Right. Or learn how to do it themselves. And that brings me to another thought, because I know that you do a lot of work with the youth, with students in school currently, and you're trying to fill that void, of knowledge and experience and skill sets. Could you share a little bit about your experiences and some of your goals with educating the youth in finance?
Sure. I want to talk first on that point of doing their sales. There's a concept, money buys time. Mm-hmm. And I saw a meme shared that says, people keep saying everyone has 24 hours, which is true. Everyone has 24 hours, but some people have to take the bus where other people have access to a private jet. That changes your time. And then she was like, some folks have to raise the kids, wash the dishes, cook the clothes. Other people have hired help. So money buys your time back, right? And that was true. I spoke to a C-suite person over at PwC, and she has a little boy, but she's like, flying the globe and all this stuff. And I was like, Sean is one, and I'm just trying to get to New York and back. I'm trying to write this book. I'm like, how do you do it? And she was like, girl, I have 2 nannies and a night nurse. I was like, oh, okay. I don't have a night nurse. I don't have 2 nannies, but money buys time. I do have one good caretaker that he went to before the pandemic. But in addition to that, I saw another story where a woman was like, yeah, we have hired help and everything, but with the pandemic, they're not coming. So my daughter, who I guess she's like 14, she had to clean the bathroom, and she didn't know how to clean the bathroom. And so and that just spoke to me. It's like, yes, even if you have the funds to buy hired help, we should be raising our kids to always still have access to those fundamental skills. And as like, I'm believing God that I will continue increasing my wealth, and it will be massive in order for me to be able to do the things that I'm called to do on a global scale. But my son will learn how to take out the trash. I don't care how rich we are, these basic skills. And Malcolm Gladwell talks about this in one of his books. He was like, this man grew up middle class, but now he lives in this like hangar-sized home, and he feels like he's doing his kids a disservice because they're not getting that fundamental pull your, let's work for, parent beings, lessons that are so critical for human beings to have, to be able to use your creativity for that. So that's a tricky place that a lot of people who are building wealth and want to, pass on some lessons to their kids, they're going to have. But with Alumni 360, those students are predominantly from low wealth areas. A lot of them are first generation college students, or they have parents who don't really have a huge knowledge of financial education, investment education, and the collegiate system.
Yeah. So, real quick too, Alumni 360, give a definition of what that is.
Sure. Alumni 360 is the nonprofit that I started in 2014. I got out of debt in 2015, but 2014, as an elementary educator, I was looking at my kids. I was teaching every day, and I was like, someone's not warning them. Like
what's to come?
Waving the red flag of, hey, don't do what I did. Be aware of what you're getting into. Higher. And my thing is, college is important. I understand this, but it isn't for everyone. There are many routes to go, and we have to stop demonizing people who do not go the 4-year university route. And my quote is, college isn't for everyone, but higher learning is. So I know several people who do not have a 4-year degree who are doing massive, great things and changing the world because they chose another route of education. And I applaud that. But for a lot of my students, they are choosing to go the 4-year university route. Yet we are asking our 18-year-olds to sign papers that will affect the rest of their financial life, mortgage size, and putting themselves into massive debt, and they have no financial education at all. To me, that's a type of injustice that I could no longer sit back and just watch and wave, So I started Alumni 360, just a simple thing of getting the graduates of my elementary school, so they're in middle school and high school and a few in college, just getting them together and start having conversations of seeing their experience, and then bringing in speakers and having them be aware of what they're headed for, and then having them also understand their creative potential, that they could use their stories to write for scholarships to offset some of that debt that they might be accruing. So once again, I'm all about creating something out of nothing. How do you create value for your students? Because I've written papers. I wrote a 9-page paper, sent it to Hilton. Hilton gave me $9,000 to travel to Japan and South Korea.
Yeah.
Once again, my ideas, putting it on paper, sending it in, bam, a trip around the world. That's what I want my kids to learn how to do. Leverage their story, leverage their diamond gifts, and get things done. And so that's alumni360.org.
That's so amazing, Jenny. My next question for you is like, what areas of things do you love to serve into? And this is already amazing, like, right? Like Alumni 360 is an idea that you have because you see these kids who are about to go into college and about to step into this world that's literally going to give them, hundreds and thousands of dollars of debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, the other thing is that too, it's like, sometimes we look to these different organizations, we look to churches or different groups to do the work that is right in front of us, and you've stepped up and you're an example of, seeing a problem and getting ahead of it and solving it, and creating a whole organization out of nothing. And then bringing it, and the amount of lives that you've changed is just incredible. And I'm sure you have 100 different stories of feedback that you've got from your students and graduates. But I guess through that whole process, what have been some of the more, like for you, what are the rewarding pieces of that journey?
Of course, those texts you get of Miss Letford, because of your words or your classes you're teaching, I decided to go for this one opportunity. And, I got one from a student, and I'm allowed to share her story. Her name is Angelica, and she's actually going into finance. So she wants to do that now, but she also wants to go back to her community and be an educator about it, and kind of educate those. But she last minute got an opportunity to apply for girls who invest. And this is for college girls, and they bring in top investors, you get training, and it was a week to do the application. But she was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it because I teach the kids. Just go for it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? They say no, and you're in the same position as if you hadn't went for it at all, so just go. And she went for it, and they selected her, and so now, she has this access to network. I also teach them about the network capital. Mm-hmm. There's many ways to have capital and to look at capital, and your network is one of them. And so she's doing that, but then she's at one of the universities, and she decided to apply for their investment. So now she's helping run the investment of a UC university, their endowment fund. And it's all because of just the term of, hey, just go for it. You never know what will happen. And now she's about to graduate within the next year. And she is looking for an internship, and she texted me. She was like, yeah, I would apply, and then I would get to the final round, and then they would say no. And that happened like 5 times. So like big investment firms, right? Yeah. But then she said, and I finally went to the 6 one, and I got it. And, I'm so happy. And she told me some of the terms. But I responded, that's awesome. You got it. What I'm excited about is you got rejected.
Yeah, true.
Times, and you kept going. Rejection is such a hard thing for people to deal with, to overcome. And it affects our finances, because if you're dealing with rejection, you're not wanting to create and put what you want out there because you're so afraid of rejection. And I'm letting her know that training, that going to the last level and then getting rejected, that's hard. Yeah. But you kept going. If you can get that at 21 years old, there's adults who still struggle with that. And the last point that I'll make is, I bring this point up a lot because I think it's critical for us to reframe this situation. Remember about a year or 2 years ago, some celebrities got in trouble for writing checks to get their kids into USC and to Duke and whatever, the college scandal. And, of course, we look at the celebrities. Of course, there's a lot of people who did it who aren't celebrities. They're just really wealthy. Yeah. And I just looked at the kids. To me, that's a form of child abuse, because to say to your kid, I don't believe in your abilities to do it on your own. I'm going to sit someone next to you to take the SAT with you to make sure you do well. I'm basically communicating, I'm not supporting you. And number one, I'm also taking away the opportunity for you to fail and for you to get rejected. And I'm taking away that ability for you to build that muscle to get back up, that resiliency muscle and that regeneration muscle that you need to have to get through this life that throws us curveballs. Yeah. Those muscles are so important. And so when I look at that scandal, of course, we all, of course, don't judge because we all have fallen short. But people look at the parents, and my heart cries out for the kids, because what are we speaking to them by saying that you can't do this on your own? Or if you did get rejected from USC, okay, get back up, let's keep applying to other universities. It's, as you all know, especially being in the arts. And that's another key thing about being an artist. You got to be okay with rejection. You got to get back up and go to that next audition, or you won't have a career. Rejection is a part of it. So that's what.
Gosh, Genein, so much diamonds. What? So much diamonds.
I'm right.
I am just so in awe of just like, even just your analogy of like the parents, right? Like paying for their kids to get into college. It's literally a clear message saying, I don't believe in you. I don't believe in you. I don't believe in what you can do as a young teenager, whatever, right? And so I'm gonna make the way for you. I'll make this happen for you because I don't believe in you. And that's huge. Like that subliminal message is huge, and it hurts, right? And so thank you for pointing that out, because it really is such a lesson for us to all to learn, is the rejection part. And I love that you brought that up, because it's important. It's important, especially in this day and age where everything in social media is, we're so focused on the likes, right? Like we get that dopamine hit of like, oh, somebody like, all that stuff. Like, man, the rejection lesson right now is more important than ever, especially with all of the social media and the always putting out the good, only the good stuff out there. So thanks for bringing that up.
What I wanted to get to next, just for our listeners, we have, a little segment with actionable tips, because we want to make sure that our listeners, there's been probably about 40 different things that you've dropped actually already,
Yeah.
But would you have 3 specific tips that people could start implementing in their daily lives to live their wildly wealthy life?
Look for new opportunities, especially now. And those opportunities may be inside of you. Millions of people lost their job this year, and they had no skills of how to create something out of nothing. So that's a skill. Start that, and start small. Yeah, that's the first tip, is look for new opportunities around you. Be observant, because they may not look like the normal opportunities of, okay, let me get income this one way, right? And we have to redefine and take away the old way and really start fresh. So that's the first tip. The second tip is be mindful of your network. A lot of resources, a lot of support, and just a lot of encouragement can really come from that. And just a lot of creativity doesn't just happen in your brain. It happens between brains, this space, between us. I know Lee and I have talked a lot about a lot of creative ideas, and your network, the creative capacity of the people you have around you really affects your ability to, number one, think that you can create, and then to execute. And that is the point of creativity, is the execution. Innovation does not happen without execution of creative ideas. So be aware of your network. Make sure you're around positive thinking and creative folks. And the last one is to execute, and you can start small. Get yourself in situations of practicing how to deal with failure, how to execute. I love karaoke. I love taking people to karaoke who don't like to karaoke, because it gets them up there, and then they realize, wait, this isn't so bad. If you're afraid of public speaking, which living a wildly wealthy life, you have to know how to communicate effectively, whether you're doing business deals, whether you're investing, or you're looking to launch a business. Communication is key. So getting out there and practicing how to communicate effectively in different methods. That's why the arts are important, because the arts are a form of communication. Yeah. How do you speak? How do you write? How do you do a podcast? How do you do quick videos? There's multiple ways to communicate, but no one's going to invest in you if you're not able to communicate well. And then track everything. Have fun tracking, and I need to do a better job of that myself. And you've never arrived, even though I have the book out, I have this stuff out. It's like, okay, Genein, what is next? Now I have the 7 gems of intercultural creativity that I just developed 2 days ago. So you guys are the first. You guys are the first public platform to hear that title. Congratulations. So and now it's my job to really connect globally. What does it look like for us? Because now we're on now, if not before the pandemic, definitely now we're on a global connectivity, network. So we have to learn how to create with different cultures in mind, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Genein, I just love when you were talking about, thank you for the tips, by the way. They were all awesome. I feel like it's been tips since like the beginning of our conversation anyway. It's just like golden, like diamond nuggets, basically. But when you said that, creativity can happen between brains, right? Which is really true, because I think about, like, as you said, that I think about right now, one of the things that I'm really passionate about recently is just my piano stuff. And I got awarded a scholarship, same thing. Like, I'm like, what could I lose? I'm going to apply for this scholarship. I got a 1-year scholarship to this amazing piano program that would have cost me, like thousands, but now I'm like able to do it for free because it's a scholarship. But the other thing about that is I got really encouraged to really dig into it and really develop it even more. And one of the things that I wanted to do with that was to release basically a video a week, right? And that's hard because that means I have to learn a lot of pieces, like week after week after week. It's hard work. But one of the things that I just realized when you said that is that none of these videos are possible if it wasn't for collaboration with other creative thinkers, because I cannot do this myself. We interviewed someone yesterday and he said there's no such thing as self-made, which is really true. None of us, even, we could be creative on our own, but it's more powerful when we're creative with other people, because we are not self-made. Like the videos that I have made, I couldn't have done it on my own. Like there's no way, and then that network that you talked about, that same thing. Like I looked at my colleague in my videos, I'm like, this is amazing. And my friend would do it for me for free because we're friends, and it's just amazing. Just that collaboration of creativity, and be aware of your connection and your relationships is a great thing.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to brag about Kat for a minute too, because you mentioned about the execution on things, and when she was, performing and whatnot, she came back and wanted to get into stunts and whatnot. And she like Facebook messaged some person with this like elite stunt team and wanted to like get in and start training. And she got in and like for a year was training with like some of the top stunt people and actors and whatnot in the industry. And it's all from, like you said,
it's usually invite only. Like if they don't know you, they won't ever. And I'm just like, they'll probably never invite me because I'm a nobody in that world. So I'm just going to say, hi, I am. It's hilarious, but it's really true.
I think it's a testament though to like stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something new. And, a lot of the points that you had brought up, Genein, are just like good, like thought provoking. And we really need to, there's a lot to gnaw on after this episode. I feel like.
So much. Yeah. I'm like getting these.
One point of that, because if your audiences are really looking to step it up in their mentality of what it really needs to live a wealthy life, and number one, definitions are key. So they really need to define what that means to them. But the ghosting of, if you would have reached out and not heard anything back, the part of your personality would have just kept going in whatever direction that you felt you needed to keep going. And I remember I was hearing a CEO of an organization just sending out, emails. And I remember hearing him saying, I got ghosted or whatever. And this is a huge organization. I'm like, wait, he gets ghosted? I can see me getting ghosted because it's like, who's this little elementary school teacher emailing us, whatever. But he gets ghosted, and that really opened my eyes of Genein, just go for it. If he can get ghosted and keep on moving forward, and it just happens to everyone. And I want to define ghosted. Ghosted is when you reach out to someone and they'd never get back to you. Yeah. A lot of times folks feel discouraged, but you don't know what's going on the other end. They could be going through something. They may have went into their spam, or they may just not want to get back to you. That is fine. Yeah. Keep going in the direction you feel called to go, and don't let that stop you, because we all get ghosted.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like myself, like I look at it, I see the message, I read the message, I think of how I want to reply, and then something captures my attention and I'm on to the next task. And in my brain, I did finish that sentence and hit send, and like, So follow up too. Don't forget to follow up with people. It's a wonderful tool.
Nowadays, we're so distracted with so many things. The person you're contacting may have just been distracted.
Yeah. Also, you brought up a good point of like definitions in that. Could you, for our listeners, define what your version of wealth is?
Sure. Well, one of my taglines is your creative health affects your financial wealth. So I really make that clear, that your ability to create value affects your ability to create financial wealth, because the more value you create, people pay you for that. And if you know how to license it, how to protect it, how to trademark things, that could be perpetual. It's generational. And when I talk with my Alumni 360 students, I don't just look at them. I'm looking at their great grandchildren. Like, I'm affecting generations. Once that mind shift happens, that's a generational effect. But for me, wealth is, 360, because there's a lot of financially rich people who are miserable, or who are tormented, who have no peace, or who are physically ailing and they don't have physical wealth, right? Like health. And so to me, wealth is really having a great foundation of knowing who you are, of having your basic needs met, and hopefully being in a position to help other people, even if it's able to buy someone a meal or buy 1,000 folks a meal, like the words of Mother Teresa, if you can just help just one, just start with one. And so just really having that ability to live an abundant life of creation. Yeah, you're able to create, and you have that piece of creating, because right now it's your turn. Like, you have these 80, 90 years, hopefully, on this earth, and then your turn is up. And so, we just had a passing this week of Tony Hirsch, I believe his name is, the founder of Zappos.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and is young too. I think he was like 40s, in his 40s. But he created an organization that employs thousands of people. He wrote a book because what does it really mean to be alive? It's that transferring of ideas, because someone who is in a coma, they're alive physically, but they're not able to transfer ideas. So what does it really mean to be alive? And that, to me, is wealth. You're able to transfer ideas, to create. And so once you're gone, you're still kind of alive, because your ideas are still out there doing what they're supposed to do. They're empowering people to think about life in a new, refreshing way.
Yeah. Amazing.
So good.
So good, Genein. Mic drop.
Let's just sit on that for a minute. Let that
diamond drop, right?
For those who are not watching the YouTube channel, you got to watch, because first of all, Genein is beautiful. So you got to watch. Okay. So if you're just listening on the podcast, look at our YouTube, and you'll also see our lovely cat earlier that we talked about, who walked in front of the screen. So anyway, Genein, we are pretty much wrapping up here. We'd like to ask you our 10 quick rapid fire questions that we ask all of our guests. Some of them are related to podcast themes. Some of them are not. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't censor yourself. So number 1, if you could choose one book to live by, what would it be?
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. Okay.
Sounds good. Personal hero, living or deceased, someone you know or don't know.
Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou, nice.
Solid answer.
The one thing you intentionally have to do every single day.
Pray. Start my morning mindset prayer.
Prayer. Nice.
Love it. One hobby that brings you the most joy.
Karaoke.
Karaoke. I love that. Okay. Most rewarding thing you've done for someone in need. We kind of answered this a little bit, but maybe you have something else.
Getting a cot for someone.
Getting a cot for someone.
That I've slept on the ground before, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
Last song that you sung out loud.
Karaoke girl.
I know. Communion. Commune. It's called Commune. I would sing it, but communion. I wasn't going to break in the song. That's just what we do, right?
Yep. Awesome. Last big purchase you made for yourself.
Last purchase I made for myself was a book about the Jewish holidays.
Awesome.
Nice.
A food you cannot live without.
My homemade chicken soup brings warmth and wealth to the soul.
Oh, nice.
Love it. I need to come over and try that.
I know, right? What is your spirit animal?
I would say the eagle.
The eagle.
Eagle or the elk. The eagle or the elk. The eagle fly high, the elk for endurance.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. I was going to say, those are like light years apart, but okay. Finish the sentence. This is the last one. If I'm stuck on an island by myself, ...
I would, run around the perimeter singing "The Hills Are Alive" with the sound of music. Hopefully with clothes on. You never know.
If you're just by yourself, it's okay to be free.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, Genein, thank you for being with us today. We have two parting questions for you. One, where can our listeners find out more about you? And number two, if you were to encourage our listeners to give or serve into something, what would that be?
Well, your last question, my first one is just be mindful of generational impact. So I believe a lot of my service goes into the next generation, those kids who are still formulating their concepts and their mindset. So if you want to check out alumni360.org, there's one, but any organization that really empowers and develops the child mind so that child mind can grow into a solid adult mind. I really support that. And you can find me at JeneinLetford.com. That's my personal page as far as keynote speaking and training. And then my business, my corporation, is Cafe Strategies with 2 F's. It stands for Creative Advancement for Financial Empowerment, Cafe Strategies. And that's where we go into corporations and organizations and teach them how to interculturally create from a childlike perspective, because it's about getting people back to that childlike openness and curiosity in order to have value creation. So cafestrategies.com, CAFFE strategies.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Genein. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for being with us today. We have loved being with you.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was probably one of my favorite episodes. And I'm not saying this because Genein is my friend, but it's really because the diamond nuggets in that whole episode was so much. There's so much to unpack in that episode. And so I'm probably going to watch it again.
My favorite just because she is my friend. And I am biased, but also, yeah, she's always, she has this like spark about her that's always engaging, and she really cares to help people. So we know her heart personally. So I don't know if vouching for her is necessary and all, but it's like,
but I think it makes it more like that we really are into it because we know her personally. We know her heart, and her heart is really to be of value to people and to help people. Right. So
if you need a speaker, hire her.
Yeah.
If you need like personal coaching, hire her. If you need graphic design and web designing, hire her husband.
So anyway, this is a plug for Genein. Amazing episode. We hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. And for our next episode, we are going to be sharing with you Jillian Johnsrud. Jillian Johnsrud, another powerhouse woman, financially independent at the age of 32, mom of 6, 4 adopted kids and 2 biological kids. We had
a serious moment where after her first opening statement, I don't know if we really needed anything else, but she just kept pouring out, and it's amazing. But she has a really heartfelt, strong message. So if you tune in, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. We're excited to see you guys in our next episode. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Wildly Wealthy Life.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wildly Wealthy Life. We hope that this episode has helped you take another step towards living fully, giving freely, and building a legacy that deeply impacts your community. We'd love to hear what you think about today's show. Please leave us a review or like us on iTunes and YouTube, and click the subscribe button so you won't miss a show. You can also visit us at wildlywealthylife.com for today's show notes. See you on our next episode. Thank you, and may you live a wildly wealthy life.